Welcome to Coaching in Session,
where limits end and growth begins.
Hosted by Michael Rearden.
This is your space to challenge the ordinary,
unlock your potential,
and step boldly into your next chapter.
Your mindset journey continues.
This has to be one of my favorite topics to speak about because I talk about it all the time on the podcast. I'm sure some of my long listeners are probably like, why does Michael always talk about this topic? And guess what? It's just so powerful because there's so many people dealing with it, including myself. And today we're just going to be talking about this idea of mental adversity and how we can get over the obstacles in our mind. And so I just give myself this idea, how can we make obstacles obsolete? And when we are looking at these obstacles, right, they could be the little things, right? It could be, I have to deal with work. I have to deal with clients. I have to deal with a commute. I have to deal with being hungry because you're human, right? It could be the smallest things, right? Maybe you have kids. You have to take them to school. You got to feed them. They're sick. And you have all of these problems, right? Little obstacles in your day. And as much as they might not seem significant, they can add up. I think of if we take a grain of sand, or just like the smallest thing we can think of, right? So it could be sand, it could be rice, it could be just like a bead that you put in your hair. And if we get enough of them, we can do some damage, okay? Think of like a sandbag. And sandbags are used for multiple things. You can use a sandbag to be a water barrier. Sometimes they will, during storms, lay sandbags and it would help stop the water from encroaching onto the land or encroaching into a home. So sand can be a powerful tool. And we just have to ask ourselves, we have these little granules of sand and we go to the beach and we can pick it up and it's light and it falls out of our hand and it's dirty. And it's like, okay, great, I have some sand. Maybe we add some water to it. It's a little bit heavier and we make a sandcastle. And it's like, okay, now this is sturdy enough. But if we think of it, right? If we take bags and bags of sand, and it's hundreds of pounds, and we say, okay, now you have to carry the sand. Now it becomes more challenging. It's not just some small granule that is something we can easily carry or that can fit into spaces, right? We don't necessarily pay attention to that. Now, if we go to the beach and we have flip-flops, we don't have to necessarily worry about sand. If we go to the beach and perhaps maybe we are wearing sneakers, we are going to have some sand in our shoes, right? And if you have a little bit of sand in your shoes, you're not going to notice a difference. But if you maybe put enough, maybe the fit of your shoes could be a little bit different. And if you put even more, maybe you're going to start to walk and you're going to say, whoa, my feet feel heavy. What about that in your mind? What if that sand was the figurative analogy for your mind, where slowly you're like an hourglass? And I have an hourglass right behind. I should have grabbed it before, but it's an hourglass. It's just some sand. And imagine your mind is like that hourglass and you're just allowing that sand to fall into your mind. And eventually what happens, that sand that was so light, eventually it gets to a point where your mind is heavy. Well, now we're going to be looking at this mental adversity of how do we get rid of the sand? How do we get rid of the things that don't help us? Let's focus on the things that we need or the things that we have to work on versus everything we have to work on. Because when you go to the beach, I'm using sand because it's such a good analogy. When you go to the beach, you're not going to take every granule of sand to build a sandcastle. You're just not, okay? And if you do, I don't know if it's possible, but if you do, that's going to be a very big sandcastle, right? It's going to be a lot of problems, I think, too. The water's going to come in. It's going to mess up your sandcastle. You got to build some moats. I mean, you're going to need some heavy machinery. Now, you typically are just going to find a little area and you're going to say, okay, great. I'm going to build my sandcastle here. Okay. You make sure you got the best quality sand. You make sure you need to get the water if you need the water. And you say, okay, I'm going to protect my area, my sandcastle. And as you're building your sandcastle, maybe wind comes and it delivers sand from another area. Maybe it takes away sand from your area. But the problem is you're trying to build a castle. You're not just trying to move sand aimlessly. You have a goal. And this goal that you have, this vision that you have, is going to be something you could look at like, whoa, I can't believe I accomplished this. I can't believe I did this. When I see these huge sandcastle sculptures, they have competitions, or they're just people who do sandcastle art. You can go on YouTube if you really want to look at it, or Instagram or Pinterest, and you can see all these beautiful sandcastles. And you have to ask yourself, whoa, I can't believe people are making these wonderful things in their life. And how long does it take? Typically, it's not one of those things where we just get a bucket, we put some sand in it, we fill it with water, and we just dump the bucket. It takes time, it takes precision, it takes effort and care. Now, when I think of all of this troubles or all the troubles that we give ourselves, right? Where we are giving ourselves these little problems, they begin to accumulate and they happen almost without us noticing. Very similar to how we don't notice how sand might be in our fingertips until we get enough of it, or sand will be in our feet or between our toes until we get enough of it, or until it starts to rub against our skin and maybe cause some chafing or chaffing or whatever that word is. And so we have now an issue, right? Now we're focused. This doesn't feel good. This is uncomfortable. Let me start to change, when the reality was the sand was always there. When you live by the beach, it's a beautiful, beautiful view of looking out at the water. But then the wind, it blows sand on your porch all the time. You have to continually sweep, or you have to get the blower and you have to blow the sand away. And if you just allowed that patio to remain unmaintained, you'll have so much sand there. You'll say, whoa, I can build a sandcastle right here at my house. I don't even have to go to the beach. And this is what happens in most people's lives and most people's minds. They gradually are allowing things that are from the exterior to come into the interior, the sand, the problems, the challenges, the obstacles. And eventually they start to pile up enough to where now we have to focus on them, or we have to try to navigate around them. I can't tell you how many people, they'll have skeletons in their closet and they try to get everything from their closet. So they got the Christmas gear in the back or something, or they have their Halloween gear in the back, and they're trying to get it all through these skeletons and through all this junk. And the reality is, maybe you should take everything out and organize it, or maybe you should take things out and get rid of the things you don't need. But that's just not how people work. People would rather have a junk drawer full of junk. And this could be a metaphor for the mind. People have a mind full of junk, where they're not doing the work to get rid of the things that no longer serve them. So when we have obstacles in our life, typically, like I said, they happen almost unconsciously. They just happen automatically, where maybe you were a person that was super active, where you would go to the gym, you would watch yourself of what you ate healthy, you ate clean. And now all of a sudden, you are not eating clean, you're not going to the gym, and you're starting to see you're slipping. Maybe you get an injury, back injury or neck injury. I remember last year, oh my goodness, and I'm definitely going to tell you the story in a minute, where it's like you have these moments where it's just like you're out of commission. And you're like, man, I'm out of commission. Let me just take it easy to recover, to heal. I can't tell you how many people that this happens to, whether it be because of a breakup or a job loss or whatever. And they have this moment of a hiccup, and the hiccup can be a negative moment where it's just like a lot of bad happens, or a lot of things that shouldn't be happening in your life happen. And then it's like, now you either have to recover from all of that bad, or you have to say, okay, let me get away from that habit and go back to where I was. And it's just easy for people just to fall off and just say, well, I was here on this peak, on this pedestal, on this plateau. I fell down here. I know how much work it is to climb right back up to that point. Why not just stay here? This is the mind. The mind is going to say, why do I have to challenge myself or climb this mountain again? Because I know how difficult it is. When there is a school of thought, well, why did you even let it happen in the beginning? Right? Why did you stop going to the gym? Why did you start eating bad? Why did you not communicate in your relationships? I mean, it could be whatever, right? The reality is, we talked about it on the last episode, the momentum, right? It was lost. All right. Somewhere along the line, it was frayed, where we just had a roadblock, where we had some potholes, and we didn't do the work to fill them in, where we didn't do the work to get the road back maintained or functional. We just kind of said, oh, let's do a detour. And then before you know it, we have a plethora of problems. Now, last year was an interesting year for me. It's not only me, it's so many clients too. It's so many people I spoke with where they have a moment where everything kind of falls apart, whether it be their health, their finances, their family life, whatever it be, right? There's something that happens and it just feels like there's a problem after a problem after a problem after a problem. And what happens when you have all of these problems is sometimes you just get tired of creating solutions. So you say, instead of making solutions, I'm going to figure out how I can cope. I'm going to figure out coping mechanisms because it's going to be more challenging for a person to say, all right, I have to deal with this. I have to deal with that. I have to deal with this. I have to deal with that. And then all of a sudden you're drained. Then you have to continue to do all the things that you were doing. Versus if you say, okay, I had to deal with this. I have to deal with that. Let me deal with it. And then let me keep on moving. So people, what they do instead of doing that, they create coping mechanisms. They say, I'm going to eat some more because I'm stressed. I'm going to lay in the sofa because I'm tired. I'm going to lay in bed and go on my phone because I don't want to, be mentally active because I'm mentally drained, right? There could be all of these problems, right, that are going on. And what's happening is we have an obstacle and we are allowing the obstacle to truly be a roadblock. Okay. And when we think of this idea of what I was saying, how can we help our mind to look at these obstacles and make them obsolete? We need to have a strong mind. We need to have a vision of something bigger than just a moment of pleasure. Now, this moment of pleasure or this idea to overcome adversity for the long haul is not going to be something where it's a one and done thing. There's always going to be problems in your life. There's always going to be an issue. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you have a little bit of money. Okay. It doesn't matter if you have a bunch of boyfriends and girlfriends. It doesn't matter if you have a bunch of jobs. It doesn't matter. Okay. It matters that you're going to be living life, and in life, you're going to have some problems. Rich people have problems. Poor people have problems. Everyone has problems. Now, the severity of the problems can be different. And just because I say the severity of problems can be different, it doesn't mean that if I say I'm having relationship issues, that my relationship issues are more severe than your relationship issues, because you might be having relationships issues as well. Or you could be having financial issues. You could be having dream issues, or you could be having health issues. And I'm not going to say that mine are any worse than yours. It's just mine are mine to deal with, and yours are yours to deal with. Now, I'm not saying that you can't reach out to us, revenconcepts.com, get yourself some coaching. And then, of course, I'm there to help you, to support you along the way, to get through those problems, to get through those obstacles, to get through those adversities. We do that together. But the reality is, it is still yours to take on. I'm just there to support. I'm there to be that cheerleader. I'm there to give guidance. It's very similar to a coach, maybe in elementary basketball. Typically, coaches are going to be older than elementary players, right? So if you're in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, your coach is going to be maybe in their 20s or 30s or 40s. It could be older, right? But again, the span of time is going to be more or greater than elementary. Now, the coach can't say, all right, guys, I'm going to go play and I'm going to beat the teams for you, okay? No, the coach is, I'm going to train you. I'm going to equip you to be any team that you go against. If you don't have a coach like that, then you're just going to kind of be going in and getting your butt handed to you, because a coach should be equipping you for the battle, for the game in life. When we have to go to battle every single day, the figurative battle of every single day, how much training did you do before this day? Most people have done nothing. They've done none. Of course, there's going to be ideas and aspects to training. For example, education. Maybe you're going to school to get a degree. You do all the work in order to get the degree, and now you're working in this field. Can you say that all your problems from studying, tests, writing papers, practicals, internships, we know during the time when you're studying, if you went to school or college or to whatever degree of education, during those times, there was problems. Oh, I have to study. Oh, I have to write this paper, right? there was problems. Now, those problems are insignificant if you're not in school anymore. Now you have a new set of problems. Oh, I have to go to work on time. It's 9 o'clock. It's traffic. Oh, my boss wants me to do this presentation. I'm not really good at public speaking. Oh my goodness, my workload is so hectic. And then now you have a work problem now, right? Before you had a school problem, and now you have a work problem. And sometimes adults will say, "Oh, you don't know how good you have it when you're a kid, because when you're a kid, you have problems. When you're an adult, you have adult problems." And of course, we know that adult problems are bigger than kid problems typically, but it doesn't take away from the fact that a problem is a problem. Because if we didn't have those problems when we were a kid and we just have all these problems when we're adult, imagine how unstable we will be. Most people will fold the moment they had a problem, like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to deal with this. And this is what happens sometimes with silver spoon kids when everything is taken care of and they have to face the real world. They kind of flatline. This is when they'll turn to drugs and alcohol and substance abuse because the problems are so big and they look for a coping mechanism in order to get out. Now, this is not to say that everyone does this. There's going to be people who are able to overcome it. Maybe 20% is a reasonable number or a reasonable percentage to say that people are going to be able to overcome it. Most people are just going to struggle all the way through when they have these challenges and these obstacles. So this mental adversity is going to be an anchor for a lot of people in their life. Going back to what I said, last year, it was just like I had so many little things that were going on where it was silly, where I've been going to the gym, like I said, since I was 15, and it's easy, right? The idea of momentum for me is like, I'm already doing it. It's already like I'm breathing, like going to the gym is like I'm breathing. It's easy. Well, there's some things that happened, some obstacles that I was giving myself and in my mind or just life was giving me, that it could create some moments when I had a choice to either not keep going or to just kind of fall to the waysides. It's very interesting because I had hurt my arm like in June, and then I had hurt like my neck like toward the end of the year, like I forget, August or September or something along those lines. So it's just like I had all these little problems, and you might have to ask, and you might be saying, Mike, those are not big problems. Well, the problem is my problem is my problem. I got to deal with it, right? Your problems are your problems. You got to deal with it, right? You're having money problems. That's your problem, right? I don't have to give you any money. For me, it was these little problems, right? It's like my arm, and then my neck and my back. And then I was just like, whoa, it's like these little things can just toss you off the cliff and give you all of these problems, right? And they create all these obstacles. So go to the doctor, go to the chiropractor, you do all the things you're supposed to do. And the doctor is definitely not your friend. I don't think they're your friend because if because if you had a doctor, I think who was like a coach or something, and I think this is why doctors are not life coaches, is because they would say, well, keep on pushing, keep on trucking, right? Don't take off. Versus the mindset sometimes is you do have to rest, you do have to recover. And sometimes you just have to push on the pedal, and it becomes difficult to know when you do that. So the mind, it creates these spasms of, I know how much the pain was and it felt. So you don't want to feel that again. So you do things to mitigate that feeling. So you say, okay, I remember my arm was hurting, so I don't want to do this exercise anymore. Or I don't want to go to the gym for a week or a month for however long. And before you know it, the person that you were, right, that good looking guy or good looking girl, you're packing on the pounds and you're just spiraling out of control. Well, the problem is this adversity that you're facing is because you have a roadblock, you have that spasm from an injury or a moment or a problem in your life. So when you're looking at these obstacles in your life or these issues in your life, you have to look at it more than just what it is at the moment, right? A problem, like a challenge. You have to think of it as a moment, a learning lesson. Like, okay, let me learn from this mistake. All right, what did I do to get here? For me, for my neck issue, I slept wrong. It's like, Jesus, like you get up in age a little bit, you sleep wrong, your whole body hurts. I'm like, all right, well, what do I have to do to make sure I sleep right? Okay, maybe get a certain pillow because I'm a side sleeper. And my chiropractor was like, oh, if you're a side sleeper, you have to get this type of pillow. And I'm like, okay, I do have that pillow, but I don't want to use it, right? Because sometimes you just fall asleep and you just feel comfortable. What happens is that you have to deal with some of the repercussions that you have been given yourself or life has been given you. And typically, if life is giving you something, it's you were allowing it. So I was allowing it. And then it was me working through it. And so now I'm extremely conscious of what I do or what I have done when the problems had happened. Now, I'm going to make sure that I mitigate those same problems from happening, but it's not going to say that I'm avoiding these problems, that new problems won't show up. Because maybe it won't be my arm, or maybe it won't be my back or my neck. Maybe it'll be my knees or my neck or my foot. Something's going to happen. And all of a sudden, this is like now I have a new thing to worry about. If it happens back to back to back to back to back to back to back, you might say, well, all of these problems, all of these hardships are just kind of setting me farther back, pushing me further down the hill. And I think of like a wave pool, or like a rip tide when you're on the beach and you're on the coast, and all of a sudden the ocean just keeps bringing you back into the water, keeps bringing you back in the water. No matter how hard you swim, you can't get through that current. Well, we know if we swim parallel across, or parallel to the beach, eventually we can get out of that current, if you have ever dealt with that. But some people, they just see the straight line, the A to B, and say, this is what I want. And they keep on trying, and it becomes extremely challenging when they might have to do a roundabout way in order to get to their goal or to their dream. Well, this obstacle that you have right now, the rip current or the sand in your shoes or whatever you want to consider your obstacle, you can always find a way around it. There is always something that you can do that's going to help the mind continue to stay focused, to continue to be primed. And I think of when I hurt my back, when I hurt my neck, what could I have done? Could I have gone on the elliptical? Could I have gone on the Stairmaster? Could I have focused on my diet more than anything, instead of maybe looking at these obstacles and having mental adversities and looking for coping mechanisms? All of these little factors come into clear view now of what can I do, or what could I have done instead? And one of the best things you can do for yourself is, if you're having one of these mental adversities, or if you're having a set of challenges, is to get yourself a life coach, or to get yourself someone in your corner who can help see your blind spots. And I've talked about this before on the podcast. You can see a certain amount of things in your life, but you're going to have blind spots. Everyone has blind spots. I have blind spots. And for me, sometimes I get blindsided and then I go, wait, look at that. One of my blind spots got me. And then I learn from it. I don't let it happen frequently. Of course, I'm human. So there might be times when maybe I'm in a season of I'm bulking, I'm doing great, I'm looking fantastic. Everyone goes, Mike, you look fantastic. I go, I know, thank you. Of course, they go, but oh, well, roll their eyes or something. Like, yeah, I know, right? Because I am focused on something, right? I know what I'm doing versus, oh, thank you. All right. Being humble about it. You don't have to be humble about something you are doing every single day. So what do you want to do every single day? Do you want to be a person that just allows challenges and obstacles to rule your life, to dictate whether you can go like it's a stoplight, like it's red or green? Okay. My son, he's only 3. So he watches Paw Patrol. And every time we're at the red light, he goes, red means stop, green means go, yellow means slow. So he's well aware of the traffic signals. And sometimes we get signals in our life to go, to slow down, or to maybe even stop. Sometimes we avoid those signals and we just turn our head and we want to pay attention to something else. Like I said, sometimes when we should be going, we stop. And sometimes when we stop, we should be going. I think that this is just a common thing the mind does because, again, adversity can feel heavy. It's like an anchor. Troubles and obstacles can be a burden, and those burdens can slow you down. Very similar to all that sand that's in your shoe. Eventually, it just becomes a weight. So if you have a weight in your life or a weight in your mind, I encourage you to reach out to us, revenconcepts.com, get yourself a consultation. Just talk about some of the things that are going on and we can figure out a game plan. You don't have to get coaching typically for the basic of the obstacles. The coaching session or the consultation is built for, if we never speak again, at least I gave you something to do, something to start. Now, some people, like I said in our last episode, they can start, they can have that motivation, they can have that drive in the beginning, but they don't have the momentum to get there. So you know yourself better than anyone. If you are a person that just needs a jump start and you can get to anywhere you need to get to, for example, your battery is dead, I give you a jump start. You go to Walmart or you go to AutoZone, you get yourself a new battery, you're good to go. But if you're a person that gets a jump start and you go home and then you try to start your car again and it doesn't start and you go, wait, what happened? I thought my car got jump started. You didn't do the work properly. So figure out what type of person you are. If you're a person that needs the help, that needs the support, we are here to support you. Remember to not allow challenges and obstacles to rule your life any longer. You don't have to give yourself a life full of mental adversity. We can make all of this obsolete.